Here we go. The eve of training camp 2022. This is the DNVR Avalanche podcast brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app and use promo code DNVR when you sign up. Jesse Montano joined by Meghan Angly and AJ Haefele. No Rudo today. He was up doing some stuff late last night in preparation for the season getting going.
Yeah, that thing is posted. Go watch his video on Nathan McKinnon's journey.
There you go. It's already up. It's ready to go. Just in time for camp. And that's what we're here to talk about today. We'll be heading over to Media Day here at 4 o'clock. It's a little bit of a different format they're doing for it this year. It's usually down at the arena.
Yep. So they can't get into the locker room right now. So we couldn't do it in the locker room.
Yep.
Because it's being renovated.
Yeah. So
all the people who have been like whining about how embarrassing their locker room is for years. It's being totally redone. So I guess we're gonna see what it looks like when it's all finished.
Yep. It was supposed to be done a couple of years ago, but they're getting it finished.
It's been kind of odd because they've been like painting around it and renovating all the direct areas literally around the locker room itself, and then parts of the locker room like they repainted them and laid new carpeting and all kinds of that, all that stuff. And now they're just like, okay, we're renovating the whole thing. It's like,
yeah. Okay. Long overdue, 20 plus year old arena. But so we're doing a little bit different today. They are down at the arena getting all kinds of in-game content and social media content. And we are meeting them at another location here in a couple hours. So we'll see what that's like. We'll be bringing you guys stuff live from there, of course. But the thing we're really excited for, the thing we're here to talk about is what kicks off tomorrow with veterans officially getting on the ice for training camp. Down at Family Sports, rookie camp week is done. We are into main camp, and that means that we are cruising towards preseason games, with I think the first preseason game being
Sunday,
5-6 days from now. Yeah,
both
4 days from now.
Sunday, that split squad game.
Yep. So they play Vegas and Minnesota on Sunday. So we're here. We made it through. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what we're excited for this weekend, what we are looking, who we're going to be watching, what we're expecting. So let's just kind of get into it. I don't think anyone wants to hear us continue blabbering on about off-season stuff. No real groundbreaking news from today. The NHL got that all out of the way earlier in the week. So We'll start with you, Meghan. This is going to be your first training camp with us here at DNVR. Just what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to, honestly, because of this forward group and some of the this PTO they added yesterday. This is what I've been tinkering away with over here, imagining what kinds of looks they're going to want to give guys, because I think they're going to expand outside of what we expect to be opening night. So I think we're going to see guys like Maltsev and Kaut get looks, probably even Shane Bowers. And I'm just looking to see how that's going to pan out then, and what different types of combinations we're going to get a preview of in camp, just based on how much forward depth they have going into it. It's a little overwhelming, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's part of the reason why for me, the rookies, a lot of the prospect guys, to your point, the forward depth is just so deep. This is the first year where I'm really looking at this roster, and I don't know if I see a spot for, even to your point, Meghan, that PTO they brought in. Sure, even if he shows out, you just step back and you're like, where does he go? Where does he fit? So definitely gonna be an uphill battle for some of the kids this week. AJ?
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite part is just that we're gonna be all together again. We're all gonna be back at the rink. It's gonna be a normal training camp. We're gonna be in the locker room. We're going to be able to talk to players. We're going to be able to actually get insights on the things. We're going to kind of be able to feel the vibe around the team. It's just going to be. It's going to be it's going to go back to what it was. We're going to be there. We're going to be involved. We're going to be part of it. And we're going to be able to have stories that we get to tell again and have insights that other people aren't going to have just because we're there. And we have that access, and we have that up close look at things that are going on. And, I just think I'm most just excited for like business to go back to usual in the NHL, where we get to talk to players and we get to kind of make the most of what they give us, and then hopefully do cool things for listeners and readers and blah 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 blah. So honestly,
sitting on the couch behind you, AJ.
No. Which one? That?
Yeah, right
that?
there.
That's a stack of coasters.
I was like, that looks like someone slumped in the couch, and that's all I can look at. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's a stack of coasters, and I'm not sure what the thing next to it is. I think it might be like a tiny lamp.
As long as it's not a person.
It's not.
One person.
If it is, yikes. I gotta go.
No.
There's somebody in my basement, but no. No, the ghost actually did not follow me from house to house. So the ghost in the
That's
old
what you're
house
hoping
is
for.
not here.
Hoping for the ghost to be attached to the house, not you.
Yeah. Definitely do not want it to be a me thing. But no, I just think from a media perspective, getting back to normal and actually, because I had given up. I'm not going to podium pressers, and I'm not sitting in on Zoom calls and doing all that. I hated it. I absolutely. I just being the antisocial creature that I am. I thought I was. I thought I was really gonna vibe with it. I thought it was really gonna be like my thing. I hated it. It sucked. It was not. It was too. It was too impersonal, and I was not about it. So I'm looking forward to that. Selfishly, it's all about me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, dude. I mean, really, we've made the jokes all summer. But even yesterday, we had our first kind of real media event of the season out at the Charity Golf Classic. Nathan McKinnon signing the new deal, and just talking to a few people there. Like, everyone's kind of sharing the same thought process that we've kind of had. Like I said, lighthearted, tongue in cheek all summer, where it's just they won. Like, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? Like, they won. They're coming off of it. It's usually this week. This is honestly, today is one of my favorite days of the year. It's the night before training camp. And, in the past, especially AJ, when I first started doing this with you and in the years leading up before that, training camp was the one time of year where you got to be optimistic and you got to dream and you saw the fun combinations in camp. I always go back to the Yakupov, Duchesne, Kerfoot line in camp that AJ and I were just sitting there like, this could be like the first line. Like, they're clicking, they're finding each other everywhere. It's just so fun to dream on that stuff. But as has been the case all summer long, there's just a different feel because you're not, needing to hope and dream and, who's going to step up? Who made the huge changes? You're running out of this window. You're wasting the prime. You're wasting this. This is just, it's more of like, hey, how much is that fire still burning? How much do you guys understand what we just went through? Cool. We can do that again. Can they start making themselves can they start pushing for a dynasty with, we swap these guys in and out. We get Evan Rodriguez in September and he turns into a stud. It's all fun things to look forward to this week. So, AJ, I'm with you. Like, a lot of the stuff for me is just being back around the rink, being back around all the other, all the other people that are as into this game as we are. And all
also
that stuff.
From a media perspective, there's how much that landscape has changed in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, the retirements and such of, the Mike Chambers of the world, like, wish him well and everything, and whatever's next for him in his life. But it's just a very different media atmosphere than we've seen before. So it's going to be, which I think will be great because it'll be a different look at the team than we've had in the past.
Well, it's interesting. That's an interesting point to bring up because, AD in the last couple of years, he's taking a little bit more of a back seat, having some younger people, get in there and get that experience and stuff. And now Chambers, like you said, retiring. Terry Fry has kind of taken a step back, more part-time the last couple of years. It's a funny point to make, AJ, because I know we talk about it a lot as media and other people in the media room, but those are people that I grew up reading those three guys. Those are the guys I went to for Abs coverage. They're the original guys. They've been here from the beginning. And so it's a funny kind of, line of demarcation of, hey, the organization is approaching 30 years old. There's a whole new wave of guys that are part of the organization. And it's just kind of symbolic of where the team is at, that especially with this Stanley Cup. We did the Mount Rushmore pod earlier this summer, and we made the point that, hey, you start hanging up banners and suddenly a lot of these legacy guys, the legacy's not so safe because the people that have come behind you have started to do it. So it's just, like I said, to your point, like you said, it's just a fun little kind of symbolic changing of the guard, and all those guys, we wish them well. I've had nothing but good encounters with all those guys.
This is not a shade thing. This is just
no. It's making me nostalgic. I would in high school read articles on the DP in lunch. I'd go in the computer lab. I was kind of a quiet kid, so I would do that for lunch, read articles on the DP, and then when I got my license, I was driving up for training camps. I have a binder filled with old training camp rosters. Mm-hmm. And I get to be a part of this in a way that high school student never imagined. I met Chambers while I was at DU and picked his brain about sports writing. And he was doing the DU beat at the time. It's just come full circle in a lot of ways. And it's definitely making me nostalgic.
It is. Somebody asked if I'm the old guy in the media room, and I would say only technically. Bolding has kind of been in and out in different roles over the years, but he's been around longer than me. Just in doing the same job, it would probably be me. But even then, I've taken a step back in the last year as well. So,
well, and then Pat Graham too. He,
the AP guys that cover everything. Yeah. Those guys are always there.
Pat's the man too, dude. He
is.
He's
Jayhawk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, no, he's just to your point, he does a little bit of everything, but he finds a way to be super committed to everything. He's always asking questions, always doing a little bit of research, picking people's brain. He's one that he's been around for a long time, and I hope he doesn't go anywhere anytime soon.
I remember he asked a former Avs player, who I'm not going to put on blast here, a pretty basic question, and this player tore him down, and and I was standing there watching it, and it's my greatest fear, right? That's always it. That's never been a thing that's happened to me. I've had some minor issues with guys. Everybody remembers the Ryan Graves thing, but it's I've never actually had a guy just tear me down in front of other people like that. And that dude, he kind of finished, and Pat was like, "Thank you for your time," and he walked over and he fist bumped me, and nothing changed. He was just like, "Okay, maybe he's having a bad day. I don't know. It's not my problem. I just tried to ask what I thought was a simple question."
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good learning moment for me to just be true. It's not necessarily sometimes the guy's just having a bad day, or some guys are jerks too. That does happen. But it's his response to it, his attitude was, he was just
he's someone who he gets the industry kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he gets that. Yeah. We're AJ, you and I were on the phone last night. We were kind of laughing. as awesome as it is to be in the room, God, it's always so awkward to be that, first one or two people in there, and all the players look up, and like it's Pat's someone who gets that, and he's got a great attitude towards all of it, and he's like you said, even though he's not a hockey guy, there's a lot of good teaching moments that I've had from him. So where this is going, if you're listening to this, go follow Pat Graham. He does a good job covering the Avs for the AP, and he's always a great guy to have in the room.
He's a great all around follow. But
yes, big music guy, like you said, Jayhawk, big baseball guy.
Baseball guy loves some Royals.
Hey, so there you go, Pat. There's a nice 5-minute plug for Pat Graham.
Yeah, right. Shout out Pat.
Yeah.
Who probably is too busy to listen to this pod, so I can't even make the loyal listener joke this time.
And I do apologize that we got started talking about you with who's the old man in the media room.
I don't think that would. Pat does not strike me as a guy that would bother at it. He'd be like, "That just means I'm doing a good job."
Yeah.
Keep me around for a long time. That's all that is.
Still around.
Anyway, look, from a media perspective, the media landscape and consuming all the different people,
part of what I'm excited for, honestly, though.
Such a turnover. Kyle Fredrickson is at the Gazette now, replacing Kate Shefty, and obviously Arif and JJ over at Mile High Sports, and Bolding. Peter's obviously still at the Athletic. Peter's great. Everybody loves Peter. And that's kind of the thing, is that the Avs media has kind of switched over into a certain age bracket that's a lot more aligned, instead of having actual old guys in the room. I said, like, Mike and Adrian are like old.
No.
But, older than any of us are. So it was like,
here's how I always quantify it. Whenever I like it, because my middle sister always complains about how old she is and how old she feels. And this is always, for me, if I died tomorrow and you heard about it on the news, if most people's first reaction would be, "Oh my gosh, so young," you're not that old.
Yeah.
And that age is much, much, much older than people think.
Yeah.
From when people shift from, "Wow, so young," to, "Well, they lived a good life." It's a good way to try to keep your head straight if you have an issue with your age, because
my line of demarcation right there is 70.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to be like into your 70, 75 to where it's like,
if I hear somebody that dies at 72, I'm like, that's a good chunk of life. Like how much longer would they have really wanted or had or whatever,
circumstantial for sure.
Because I lost both of my grandparents in the last couple of years. They both lived into their 90s, and I'll tell you, the last 5 years of each of their life, like, they were ready. It wasn't like they were in a hurry, but they were like, "Look, I'm prepared for this. I've had a great life. I've packed up all my stuff. I'm kind of just playing it out now."
Yeah.
And like,
I don't remember how we got down this road, but
yeah.
Oh yes, I do.
But no, I would just say 70 was always kind of that line for me, where I'm like, if you die at 67 or something, it's like, dang, man, it still feels like you got cheated a bit there.
Yep. They got life left. Anyway,
not totally training camp related.
But no, the media stuff is something for real that I'm excited about. There's a question here, do you guys interact with Peter Ball a lot? Look, all these guys that we talk to, obviously last year was a bit crazy, but being around the rink every day, like, yeah, I was around all of these guys daily. Honestly, there were points last year, depending on the time of year, I was around those guys more than I was around our own DNVR folks. So they're good people. You have to have good relationships in the media.
That was partially restrictions on the arena, though, this year.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying.
Hopefully this year we can actually be at games together again.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying.
So excited for that.
And you had to go to Winnipeg, and there's all kinds of things. But yeah, I spent a lot of time around him last year, and we laugh and joke about, competition, and you're trying to get their readers and vice versa. And well, that is all true. It's business, it's whatever. You do have to have a good working relationship with all those media people, because you spend a lot of time with them throughout the playoffs. I was spending time with them. I was traveling with them. A lot of times we were on the same flights and stuff. So it definitely benefits you to play nice, and it's easy when you got people like Peter. in the media room and JJ and stuff like that because they're just good people.
Yes.
All right. Well, so that's
Athletic Greens read. Do it right now.
I wish I could. Because it just went so perfectly, but not today. That is what we are excited for this weekend as we're gearing up for it. We're going to start diving into a little bit more of what we were looking for, specifically more pertaining to what's happening on the ice. But first, this is the DNVR Avalanche podcast brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. We are also brought to you by Breckenridge Brewery. It is the official beer of DNVR. Now that we are back open, I know we have been working on getting this brand new tap all set up and working. So once that's up and going, we will have all of those Breckenridge beers on tap. We have the regular seltzers and the canned beers already at the bar. You guys know that's pretty much all we drink. And don't remember, they do have their Hootenanny coming up October 8th and 9th at their Littleton location. National acts like Spin Doctors, local favorites like Railroad Earth, rocking out. So stay tuned to everything DNVR for Hootenanny giveaways leading up to October 8th. Check out the link in the description or visit breckbrew.com for details on tickets and on the artist lineup. So if you haven't gone down to the farmhouse, get down to the farmhouse. We love Breck. They always take care of us, and the beers are great. Also brought to you guys by Evoca TV. Look, pretty much everyone I'm talking to now that it's come time for the season to get going again. I have a bunch of people I know that are saying, yep, I'm making the switch to Evoca. I need altitude. Defending Stanley Cup champs and not missing their games this year. Really, that's the pitch. That's the big one. They have Altitude Sports. Evoca has Altitude Sports. They have AT&T Sportsnet, Rocky Mountain, NFL Network, all of that good stuff, plus 60 plus entertainment channels, news, sports, all kinds of good stuff. Evoca is only $25 a month plus a $5 receiver fee. And right now, Colorado sports fans can get $10 off per month for the first 3 months. To score that deal, go to evoca.tv/Colorado10, evoca.tv/Colorado10. No contracts, no catches, superior picture. Evoca is really the only way to go, especially now heading into the Avs and Nuggets season. DNVR Avalanche podcast brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Jesse, AJ, Megan hanging out on training camp eve. We'll be heading over to Media Day, really pretty much once this is wrapped up. They pushed it back a little bit on us. They pushed it back a half hour, so we'll have maybe a minute to kick around a bit before we head over there. But all exciting stuff. Let's get into what we're looking for on the ice. We got a nice look at a lot of the rookies, a lot of the prospects, amateur tryout guys over the weekend at the rookie showcase in San Jose. Some of those guys will be bleeding over to main camp. They'll maybe get a day or two. We'll start seeing some cuts before Eagles camp opens up. And then we'll start to see some of those guys getting in games. Some of those names that Megan mentioned earlier, Martin Kaut, Shane Bowers, Mikhail Maltsev, Oscar Olausen, Sampo Ranta. So those are going to be definitely some guys to keep an eye on. I started with Megan last time. AJ, I'll start with you. Are those really the big things of what you're looking for, given what we've talked about with this being the defending Stanley Cup champs? Or do you have some veteran maybe roster spots that you're watching or anybody that you want to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say that the one guy that we might have overlooked this entire offseason is Brad Hunt. I would say just given his contract, and we've talked about this before, when teams give out one-way deals, really expect that guy to be in the NHL. And so, especially because as far as we know, to this point, they have not given out a PTO to anybody on defense. Like, Brad Hunt just might be the guy. Like, he might be the guy that we're talking about as the extra defenseman, and not, Curtis McDermott, obviously. Is he the 13th forward? Is he the 7th defenseman? And he might really be like the 8th defenseman with Brad Hunt right in there, because, again, a one-way contract, you usually don't give that to somebody unless you're really planning on them being part of your NHL club. So I would just say that is a storyline that I think we have probably overlooked a little all summer long, kind of just forgetting that it happened. But he's an okay defender with a little offensive jump. I think his that play style will be a nice fit in Colorado. He's not big, he's not really big, but he's got a really nice shot. Goals just kind of follow him everywhere he goes. So being a guy that can jump into the play and activate, that's a guy that I'm going to be watching in camp. I would love to be like, one of these young guys is going to step up, like, Sharavilov's going to shock everybody and steal a roster spot. But I think it's just going to be boring old mailman named Brad Hunt.
Yeah, it's funny, AJ, because I saw them. They tweeted something out because the Avs are doing like their own version of Media Day right now down at Ball Arena. All the videos and stuff you see on the big board, intro videos, GIFs that you'll see on Twitter and shit. And they did a couple, they put out a couple tweets kind of highlighting Brad Hunt. And I was like, oh, yeah. I forgot that he was here. And so I'm glad you brought that up because same for me. He's someone that I'm going to keep an eye on because kind of like what we were saying a minute ago with some of these younger guys, it's not that I don't think they can't show well. I'm just having a hard time finding space. And when you're talking about a guy like Brad Hunt, you mentioned Curtis McDermott. All right, cool. But now you've kind of got McDermott hanging out here that, all right, are you just committing to him as the extra forward and someone who can kind of flex back and forth? Yeah, Brad Hunt definitely kind of adds another element to what to expect. So I think that's a great one.
I would also add that in the very unlikely event that Curtis McDermott's roster spot is in question, the Galchenyuk PTO would make a lot more sense.
Right.
To me.
Yep.
If
100%.
they were actually, truly, legitimately open to the idea of, this is a guy that we could put him on waivers and send him down to the Eagles if we really liked what we see elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
The Galchenyuk thing makes way more sense to me.
Yeah.
But if McDermott is kind of locked in as we're expecting, then we're back to I don't know where he fits.
For sure.
Especially if they do have a guy like Hunt, if they've already kind of got him penciled into the NHL lineup.
Right.
I have an expectation of him making that roster. I definitely don't know where. Are you going to carry
right
a full roster? Like, it's just not an Avs thing to do to actually carry a full roster.
Well, and then I guess the one thing that we don't really know, and it's really only one guy, but in terms of availability for the start of the season, I'm pretty comfortable and confident in saying that Sam Girard will be full go starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you have a ton of question marks in terms of who's going to be available. But we all know what Val Nichushkin was dealing with not all that long ago. So you wondered, does maybe some of this factor into that? Great call on that, AJ. Megan, for you, who are you going to be keeping an eye on? Is there any particular storyline you're going to be particularly interested in?
I think we've talked about Georgiev already, and that's not something I think I'll be able to personally draw meaningful conclusions from. It's something I'll be watching, but also looking to people who know a little bit more about goaltending to weigh in on how his camp is shaking out. But it's back to the forward group, and it's back to the Eagles conversation. We've talked about opportunity and existing opportunity in the current Avs forward group just not really being there. So I'm looking to see what combinations they come up with in terms of call-ups for the future. If there are guys that are getting good looks and are jiving well with current Avs players, that might be people then I look to and expect a call-up opportunity in the future because they're getting these looks in camp. So, with Maltsev and Kaut, they're in an interesting position just because of where they're at. But with Ranta and Olausen, I don't know. I feel like there's more opportunity for call-ups later in the season. And with Maltsev and Kaut, they're looking to be like a 13th man. And that makes the Galchenyuk thing interesting. So I'll be looking at how Galchenyuk fits into the picture too. And then Rodriguez, like we kind of assume, right, he's somewhere in this lineup and it makes it better in some way. So I'm just curious how he makes it better, because the question of what their solution for 2C is still open. And I think they're going to be giving a couple of different guys looks there during camp. Will it be Newhook? That's something I'm interested to see. How does Newhook look after, like, how does everyone look after a summer that went a little longer because of a Stanley Cup final run and likely had some training cut just a bit short? How is everybody looking generally?
So I had that thought yesterday because I was standing next to Newhook, and he looked bigger to me. Like he looked like he had filled out a little bit more. And I was in the car driving home, and I was just trying to sit there and think, because to your point, Megan, like the season went so long, the off season was short. There's obviously, celebrating that cuts into all of that too. And I was sitting there, I was like, damn it, is that my head playing tricks on me? Because that's what you want to see out of Newhook. He's continuing to fill out and grow into his body. Or like, did he even have time to do that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are just the thoughts that were going through my head, because it was such an unorthodox offseason for winning the Stanley Cup. That offseason that follows after is always going to be odd for whatever team. But yeah, so you mentioned Newhook, and like I'm asking dead serious, like, okay, were you able to bulk up your size a little bit? Were you able to hone in on anything to see a noticeable improvement this soon over what we saw you doing 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago? And again, like, I'm genuinely curious, because that's a much shorter off season than what these guys normally get. You're normally getting a first look at them after 5 months and seeing how much work they've put in. I love your answer to the goalies, because for me, you're when you're talking about goaltenders, especially in this type of situation, you're not going to. It's going to be really hard to pull, opinions out of how they're playing, how they're going to play. But one thing I remember last year, us watching Darcy Kemper really closely, and more so just how is he gelling with UC Parkala? Because UC Parkala has goaltenders, like, he has a style, and it makes some goalies uncomfortable. And we saw it last year, Darcy Kemper actually getting frustrated at camp because he wasn't, the one that I remember in particular was, he wasn't moving from side to side the way that UC Parkala wanted when the puck was out high looking through traffic. And so that's going to be something that I'm watching, is how much of what UC Parkala is talking to Georgiev about, how much of that is new? Is he catching on? Does it look like he's struggling to kind of get what Parkala is saying, is talking about? How is he going to kind of be leaning on Frankie? We know that Francouz and Kemper had a great relationship. It's actually one of my favorite little details about the second the clock hits 0 in Game 6. Everyone rushes Darcy Kemper, and he pushes past like 3 people to find Pavel Francouz before they get in a hug and go back to the pile. So how does that relationship start shaking out? I honestly, I loved a lot of what both you guys said.
If you can't get along with Pavel Francouz, you're the problem.
No, seriously, dude. He's amazing. He's the nicest dude ever. I'm looking forward to chatting with him tomorrow. And then the one other ad I'll kind of add, just to expand a little bit on, you mentioned him, Megan, but I am going to be watching Alex Galchenyuk. Again, just because I think there are some question marks around the fringes in terms of what you're trying to replace. And again, I'm not I'm not planning on him showing up and stealing a roster spot. I'm not expecting him to even earn a contract, but he is just an interesting player, because when you have someone that skilled, or theoretically that skilled, whose career was based around skill and scoring goals and stuff like that, to me, it's always at least interesting to get a look at that type of player and see, do you have it? What's missing? I don't expect him to have fixed it, but look, if he shows up to camp and he's put in a ton of work the last 5 months, and he's got his head straight, and he comes into this locker room and understands the culture from day one, Does Alex Galchenyuk have the high end potential to be a nice pickup for this team? 100%. How likely is that? Probably less than 5.
I would say with Galchenyuk, it's a lot like the bet that they made with Burakovsky out of Washington a few years ago, but with more extreme variance there, because we've seen more from Galchenyuk already in his career than we ever saw out of Burakovsky before he got to Denver.
That's a great point.
But the lows have been significantly lower for Galchenyuk than they ever were for Burakovsky in Washington. Yeah. So, and again, like you're talking about, this is a guy who was a top 5 pick who has been discarded by 6 teams.
Yeah.
In 5 years. Like, the guy has bounced around a lot. It's not, like 1 or 2 teams where it just didn't work out. 6 teams is a lot of teams.
Yeah.
You're talking a fifth of the NHL just said we're good. So, but I do think like I've been pessimistic about it because I live on planet Earth where I remember what PTOs look like the vast majority of the time.
Right.
But, because Jack Johnson was a below average defenseman, but he was signed to a PTO last year, and because Val Nichushkin worked out once upon a time, we live in this world where we're like, we're the little kid from Angels in the Outfield with the, hey, it could happen. And we look at every PTO like that because we're like, they unearthed a gem in Nichushkin, and they unearthed a not very good but healthy enough to play often enough contributor in Jack Johnson in their Stanley Cup run, like that it's now like, well, this could go well. I mean, we'll disregard all the other PTOs that have been problems.
Hey, what did I say at the very beginning of this though? Like the night before training camp, it's the one night you get to be optimistic. Where it's like, wow, maybe you get to forget for one night what it actually looks like on the ice for certain guys, and in some cases, certain teams.
Well, like this isn't Nail Yakupov. This is a guy that had a 30-goal season in the NHL.
Right.
Like, I made the comparison to Volsky yesterday, being like, well, look, like for some reason that guy's career just cratered into his 20s. The same thing has happened to Galchenyuk, but with the way that the Avs can have set some of these guys up for success, the way that the Avs have been able to tap into the skill portion of the games and convince some of these guys, hey, you need to play a certain way for us. If you can play this really up-tempo, high-paced, frenetic, offensive-oriented style, where you really do get to emphasize a lot of skill, but you do have to grind. You do have to work. Then, you might be a good fit here. Like, the skill that you've seen from Galchenyuk isn't the question mark. It's all the other things. Because I don't think it would be the world's biggest surprise if he worked out in Colorado and ended up like a 2020 season, right?
Right.
Where he's a guy that helps replace Burakovsky, and it's the ultimate, they mined value out of a guy that they gave a league minimum deal to, because nobody else trusted him enough to put him in a position where they said, hey, we think this could happen. Like, there's all the negative reasons. He's been a bad NHL player. All the stuff that I've said yesterday still applies, but like, I also don't think that it's out of the like. It would not shock me if things worked out for him, because the Avs have done a very good job with this type of player.
Yeah,
these high skill guys, and they keep looking. It started with the Grigorenkos of the world. Where they just kind of keep looking around, taking shots on guys like these, and it makes sense. You should take a shot on a guy like this. Like, Galchenyuk in Denver makes a lot more sense than like Brian Boyle, which was another name that people were like, oh, well, maybe that guy. Like, That guy just is more of the same of what you've already got. At least with Galchenyuk, we're talking about where does he fit. Part of that is he would need to play with skill. Well, if Val Nichushkin's not healthy, if he's still battling the foot coming into camp, he's still healing up and he's not healthy, we don't know how long that could be for. Say he misses the first month of the season. Purely conjecture from me, okay? Because I don't know.
Yeah. We can find out today he's good to go to get on the ice tomorrow.
Exactly. I want to make that clear. I don't know. But what if he misses the first month of the season? Alex Galchenyuk in your top 6, moonlighting in your top 6 for a little bit there, suddenly is a thing that you're like, okay.
Take a look.
Because the Nicholas Aube-Kubels will be available on the waiver wire all year. Those types of like fourth line grinder type guys. But a guy with the upside that you'll actually dream on with a Galchenyuk, he's available now. He's in your camp now. If you wanted to give him that deal, if he shows well in training camp, you can give him a deal. Training camp and preseason, obviously. You could give him a deal at the end of it, and he can just sit on your bench until you have an injury to a guy where you're like, all right, we need a little bit more of a skill look here, because he's never gonna. Let's be real. Like he's never gonna be a guy that you can put on a fourth line and say go forecheck. He can't do it. He's never done it. He can't. He, never in his life has Alex Galchenyuk been like forechecking.
It's not his game.
Yes.
Yeah,
love that. No, it's just not who he is. So you have to be. If that guy is going to work out, what I'm saying is he's got to be put in a position to succeed. If you're going to put him in a training camp line, and you don't want to put him on with the NHL guys right away, at least put him, Maltsev, Kaut, and then Galchenyuk. Like put him with some skill AHL guys that can actually make some things happen.
And that's one of the things I'm really going to be looking for, because I think it'll honestly be telling, depending on how they use him here, what kind of opportunities they give him in camp. I think it'll kind of be telling of, are they actually looking to give this guy a shot? Two things with what you said, AJ. One, talking about the 5 teams in 6 years or 6 teams in 5 years, whatever it is at this point. Look, you can always be excited about players, and this is true of every sport. Whenever you see a trade or a signing or something like this, where like AJ said, why was it that the Arizona Coyotes didn't run it back with Galchenyuk? You always have to ask yourself, why was this guy available?
He had two stints in Arizona.
Right. And like, why didn't that team want to bring him back for this year? Right. So you always have to ask yourself those questions. It was something I remember learning that lesson. That was not when I learned it, but when the Broncos acquired Peyton Manning, you have to sit there and be like, yeah, this is really exciting. Why did a team move on from him? You have to calculate all those risks. And obviously Peyton Manning is the ultimate example of, wow, it worked out. The team that let him walk severely miscalculated, but
they drafted Andrew Luck.
Yeah. Well, and just brutal for Andrew Luck. Terrible luck for him. Thank you, Megan. I'll be here all week. Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of looks they actually give Galchenyuk, because a lot of what you said, AJ, like he is one of the few guys that they brought in that has the skill upside, that you actually say, cool, if this clicks, it could work. And then my second point there is, and trying not to sound too burgundy tinted glasses here, you really do, like when you step back and look at this league, you say, well, if there's any one place where a player like that is going to be set up to succeed right now, it's Colorado. Between the leadership, the accountability, the team buy-in, and then on top of that, to your points, AJ, you're putting him, if you are going to put him in that lineup, let's say it's in place of Val Nichushkin, even for a week, he's going to get some looks with the best players he's had a chance to play with consistently for a while. Obviously he got a couple looks with the Maple Leafs a couple years ago, good offensive team where he scored some goals, but it seems like one of those things where it's like, wow, if you can't make it work here, I don't know what really is left for you because I think they are going to put him in a great spot to succeed. Megan, before I do these last reads, you have anything else to add on Galchenyuk?
I'm just wondering too, and this might be a bit of a stretch, if it's something like insurance behind Myers or something to incentivize Myers specifically with a competitive edge going into camp. Not that I don't think they're sure on Myers. There's a reason that he chose Colorado over other options. But I just wonder too if some of that presence is challenging directly Myers.
No, it's a good point because I mean, like he's the one that I think we all kind of have penciled in, right? But really, like, probably not. He's probably not a sure lock. Yeah, I know. No. Just because he is such a young kid, but like that is someone that we've all just kind of assumed, yep, he's good. I think it's a great point, Megan, that's someone who could be looking at the Galchenyuk thing saying, oh, wait a minute, that might be my spot. Can you fuck off?
I've never seen the cat before.
Yeah, he's his hand is cat. He's a little motherfucker, that's for sure. Sweet little guy, but my goodness, I've never lived with cats before, and there's nothing off limits for cats. Like my little miniature dachshund, if I don't want him to have something, I put it up on the table. If I don't want this cat to have something, I have to like move it to the garage and lock the door. This is the DNVR Avalanche podcast brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The NFL action is in full swing over at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. We're talking touchdowns, big plays, and even bigger wins. And new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win and get on any NFL team to win and get $200. Holy smokes, this is not going great. In free bets if they do win. If that's not enough, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. And right now, for every leg you add, you can boost your winnings up to 100% with bigger payouts than ever. Why bet on football anywhere else? To make things even sweeter, you can throw down a stepped up same game parlay once per game day all season long. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code DNVR to get $200 in free bets if your team wins when you place a $5 bet on any football game. Again, that's promo code DNVR only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the description for details. And of course, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Also brought to you guys by one of our newest partners, Game Time. Everyone at DNVR, a lot of people at DNVR went out and had a great night last night at the Rockies game using Game Time tickets. I think they got them for like $6 a ticket. Good seats. If you love DNVR, you will love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in this description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events. Look, obviously the job we do, we aren't normally in the ticket buying business, like especially for Avs. But Avs tickets are going to be expensive this year. They've made some changes to the way that they do tickets. KSE has the last couple of years. It can honestly kind of be a pain to go right through their system. Game Time is 10 times easier, more competitive prices, easier to use on your phone. Download the Game Time app and just get all your tickets through them. Like we were saying, DNVR did it for a huge group of people going to the Rockies game. No problem at all. Great price tickets. Download that Game Time app right now. All right, let's round this out. Let's get into.
You got a dark horse. You got like a guy that you're like, this dude is about to just blow up camp.
Mine's Sampo.
Fuck
I
you.
I don't think he makes the team necessarily. Was that yours?
Yes.
Sorry. Dude, he had a look in his eye the other day.
Yeah. And the way that he played during that tournament made me think Sampo's about to go run some dudes over in NHL camp.
I mean, I think I mentioned it on the pod last week or since. I mean, Megan and I were sitting there talking to him, and he was light. He was laughing, joking about stuff, and I asked him what his goal was for camp. What he wanted out of himself. And everyone had given good answers. Oh, I'm trying to improve this. I'm always wanting to improve that. This is something they've told me they want me to get better at. And then without missing a beat, without taking a breath, he looked me dead in the eye and he goes, to make the Avalanche. And I was just like, I can tell you mean that. Like the look in your eye, the tone of your voice, I can tell that you mean that. And he really has struck me as someone who understands what last year was for him. It didn't go well. It didn't go the way he wanted it to. And he looks determined to come out and prove to everyone and himself, no, this is for real. I'm here to win a job, and I'm here to play in the NHL. Like I said, I'm not necessarily saying he makes the team right out of camp, but I think he's going to turn some heads.
Yeah, I think that there's a seriousness to him that you might even just call it maturity, just understanding that if you're going to make the team, if you're going to be an impact guy, if you're going to set yourself up for a good year, it starts now.
Yeah.
Especially in this organization that treats, it's not like it takes its preseason like super duper seriously, but it does say, look, you show up here when you get here, from day one, we're here to work. We're here to work. We're here to be invested in our goals, and we're trying to win it. We're trying to win a championship. We're trying to bring home that hardware. All right, last year's over. It's done.
Yeah.
It's now on to a new year, fresh slate. Everybody's coming for us now. We thought that the Avs were already getting people's A games in the past, and they have been for the last couple of years. But teams are really now going to be like, yeah, we want a shot at the champs.
Yeah.
We want to take these guys down a peg, and the best way to prepare for that is to just understand that they're going to be coming. Everybody's going to be coming hard at them, and I think that Sampo probably has a better feel for what it's going to take than he did a year ago, when he kind of just walked in and was like, "Yeah, we'll just see how it goes." Oh yeah, I'm here to work. I'm here to make a team. Let's do this. This is going to be great. Because that's a guy that's made teams his entire life.
Right.
It hasn't been a super struggle for him for a long time. And then last year I think was a humbling experience, and we're really going to get an idea of what makes Sampo Ranta tick this year and how he bounces back from that.
Yeah, AJ, it's so funny, man, because I not to fully rehash it, but I sent out that tweet last week about the Broncos and talking about their culture, and it was actually really funny because it spurred a conversation for us about culture pertaining to the Avs, and I actually heard like 2 or 3 other podcasts this week talk a lot about culture, and one of them was talking about the Winnipeg Jets and how culture is such a funny thing, because when the Jets were good, everyone talked about how great the culture was. Well, the core hasn't really changed much, but the organization has kind of changed the direction, the way they're headed. And now it's, well, is the culture bad? They're having to change their captains and around and stuff. And we had the conversation last week of, regardless of what you think of, either those other teams that you just mentioned, the Broncos, the Jets, whatever, when you look at the Avs, we showed up to day 1 of rookie camp before they even go to the tournament. It's supposed to be the day to like break guys in, get guys back on the ice. They haven't been skating for a few days. And they were talking about, today is the day we set the tone for what to expect, what this organization is about. If you are on not just the NHL team, but any of the teams within this organization, this is the expectation. We're here to win. We're here to win championships, not feel good about ourselves. And like you said, AJ, Sampo seemed to get that this year. He seemed to understand, again, from the limited availability we've had with him so far, he seems like he understands what is at stake here, what is expected of him.
Yeah.
And it's you hope it's an exciting sign of how truly deep this winning mentality runs. But he's the one for me that I think is like dark horse. Is going to make, ruffle some feathers.
I think he's a great answer too. I think outside of the 10 games he got up with the Avs, he was not gifted any other opportunities from that point on, even with the Eagles. And I think that was frustrating for him. I think it showed in his game mentally. And I think he recognizes that those 10 games were a gift that he's not going to be gifted back. He'll have to earn it. And I think he's a mentally tough person too. So I would count on him. I also felt like last preseason was really good for him. So kind of similarly, Oscar Olesen, I think, had a good preseason last year.
He had a great
He's
preseason
someone
last year.
I hope will also look strong. It was one of his best looks, honestly, of the year too. I thought he looked so great playing around pro talent in preseason. Like, I think at one point he was line mates with Nichushkin, and I think that's just excellent for him. But the person I'm looking at is Martin Kaut, and it's for similar reasons to Ranta, but he had 6 games with the Avs and never got another call-up last year. And so I watched him as he healed from his shoulder injury and then returned to the Eagles lineup. There was frustration in those immediate games that he played. He played well, but there were some moments where he appeared to pull on the brakes or let off the gas a little bit at the ends of shifts, and he corrected that really quickly throughout the course of a season and really took strides as a player. He became more responsible defensively, and I think Kaut recognized that kind of similarly to how Ranta's not going to be gifted anything moving forward. He isn't either, and he's in a much more challenging position. So I could see him being extremely motivated and as pro ready as he'll ever be to be in an NHL lineup in camp. And I think he sees the barrier to a full-time roster spot the same way that we do. That's something that he's going to have to show out in a big way in camp to overcome.
Here's my thing with Martin Kaut. I guess I always feel bad because I've always been just so on the other side of where I'm. Martin Kaut, for him to get a look, everyone's just been expecting him to just get a look. He's got to do something that is unique to Martin Kaut. That has been my issue with him every time I've watched him play at the AHL, and especially when he comes up. I haven't ever seen Martin Kaut do something that's like, wow, you can only get that from Martin Kaut. He's just too replaceable. And in those bottom 6 roles and stuff, I think the way the Avs have obviously looked at it is, you don't do anything that discernible from Darren Helm or Andrew Cogliano, and we'd rather have the veteran experience. I want to see Martin Kaut do something, like do anything with pro hockey, do anything of consequence. And I think he's run himself out of racetrack. I don't know what he could possibly show up this week and show. I hope I'm wrong. Man, I've been hoping I've been wrong for 4 years now, 5 years.
Yeah. And Kaut is, I think, that's the situation for Kaut. That's the situation for Bowers. That's the situation for Maltsev.
Yep.
Those guys, I've kind of just moved on emotionally, where I'm just like, I've given up on these guys. I'd love for them to make it, but it's pretty obvious that if they got even one NHLer out of that group, we would all be thrilled. I think what's the most frustrating with Kaut specifically from that group is that you had the 9-game stretch a couple of years ago. He scored a couple of goals. He was impacting the play. There were some games where he was a little quieter.
Sure.
But you saw like Martin Kaut, like things were happening, and the Avs said, "Hey, we don't want to mess with this. Mm-hmm. We're gonna send him back to the AHL because we want to preserve the extra year of his contract." You don't do that unless you have a high opinion of the guy. Right. And now the question is just, where did it go? Where did that high opinion go? Because it's such a difficult thing, because you look at how he's been used in the NHL and you say, well, his opportunity hasn't been there. Like he gets in the NHL and they play him 6 minutes, and you're like, what do you do with that? Like, what the fuck, man? But it's also like, look, you're getting 6 minutes in the NHL that other guys aren't.
Right.
You got to do something. Like you
Shane
just
Bowers
gotta.
is so poor.
You just gotta do something.
Right.
Something. You have to be your biggest advocate. You have to be. You have to make them say, we're keeping this guy around for whatever reason. You know, if you got everybody coffee in the morning, you carried all their equipment, or you did something to feel like you helped the team out while you were around. You can't just show up and be like, they're not giving me any ice time, and then kick the ground all sad like. You just can't.
Well,
You've got to make something happen. And Kaut, Bowers, Maltsev, Ranta, Foodie, what? Fucking pick a guy. It's also true of all the AHL guys. Sedlak, Bleed, Charles Udon, all those guys. Like that's what this whole thing is about, is which one of these guys is going to separate. Because we've seen in the past, training camp kind of dictates, training camp / preseason kind of dictate how the Avs approach their call-up hierarchy for the first 2-ish months of the season. Because Bednar's like, I spent a month with these guys. I'm going to make up my own mind about which guy I would prefer that you call up in this situation based on
what I know about them.
What I got out of them in all of the preseason. And so it's a huge thing. And Cal was one of the first call-ups last year. He got up here, and then that was encouraging because it was like, great. They're still high on him. And then we never saw him again. And we got 1,000 games of Kiefer Sherwood and Jason Megna, and you're just like...
Correct.
See, and that's the part to me where it kind of goes back to what I was just talking about with trades, where like I really do... if we see stuff like that happen again, I'm going to really push, why are we seeing this, the way that it is, because there's obviously something, as much as, especially us on our show, we've advocated for a lot of these kids, right? Especially Maltsev last year. Again, our show has been on the Kaut push for years.
Maltsev got 18 games, man.
Well, right. Well, and my
got chances, man.
My other thing, 100%, and like you just sit there and it's like, okay, like you almost have to ask the question at some point. It's like clearly there is something that either they are seeing that I'm not, or there's something they're not seeing that I think I am, that makes them say Kiefer Sherwood makes way more sense on the NHL roster than Martin Kaut. And I'd love to know what that is. And I don't know if we'd ever get like a fully honest answer on that.
Not on the record.
Right. Yeah. But, it is one of those things where as much as we want to pound the table for, whoever it is, pick a prospect, pick a call up, there is a reason why it's not happening, right? Like there is a reason why. It may not be super apparent to us. It may be something real small internally. It's not unlike the way that everyone's like, well, what the hell's going on with Sonny Milano? Why is this dude have to get a PTO? Well, come to find out, there may be some behind-the-scenes stuff that have caused some teams to have a moment of pause. I'm not saying it's the case with like Kaut or Bowers, but like you're almost at the point where it's like, is it something like that? Because they really seem to be fine giving Jason Megna and Kiefer Sherwood plenty of time, and just these young kids at a certain point, you do almost have to look and be like, I just don't think they have it, because why haven't we seen it then?
Yeah, and like with Bowers, you're like, you haven't 0 call-ups.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's never been given a real, actual opportunity to do anything. Because like, again, Maltsev, I feel less sympathy for because he got 18 games last year. Like 18 games is 18 games, man. Like
it's almost a quarter of the season.
That's around the same number that Megna got. It's the same number, around the same number as Sherwood. Like those guys were all kind of in that range. 18 games is an opportunity. It's a look. And especially because the first one was like a couple of games. The first time he came up was like those couple games. And he made the big mistakes in the Tampa Bay game, I believe. And it
Yeah,
was
terrible.
like just a really, really easy, like, well, no. And came back and was more responsible, and we saw some decent things out of him. And it just didn't, again, it didn't stick. And then it got to the point where it was like, all right, we're tightening the screws here. We're not going to continue to mess with this. But a guy like Bowers, I feel for, because it's just like it. And Bowers has had, like, you want to talk about some truly, truly awful luck. He ends up getting, he has to sit out during the COVID year on 2 separate occasions because of contact tracing. Not even because he got COVID, but because of contact tracing. And then it was like anytime there was a call up, he would be hurt. And then his role was constantly different. And Bowers is a guy that's like very, 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 very little has been like a consistent, straightforward path with him over the last 3 years. It has not been like, oh, hey, he just hasn't played very well in the AHL. It's like, can that guy just get 30 straight games? He just plays 30 games. He's healthy, and his role is whatever it is. Like, whatever is happening, like, he plays a certain way. But we've seen him in multiple NHL preseasons show out. And has not gotten that opportunity. And you're just like, man, I would just love for that for him. I would love to see it, because really, really smart hockey player. The skill level isn't there, but is a really good skater, has good size, is very, very crafty, very polished, has always been that way. For me, I'm like, this should be a 4th line guy for you.
Yeah.
Like, it just should be. I'm not even like, we're not even like trying to dream here.
Right.
And be like, well, maybe he could be a middle sixer. Maybe he could replace JT Comp. I'm trying to just get him a look on the 4th line for a week. Like, for me, I watch Shane Bowers consistently, and that is one where I'm just like, I would love to know what the organization is missing.
Right.
It thinks
what
is
it is
missing
they don't
from his
see,
game.
Yeah.
Like, what are they looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, look, it's not that I know everything. It's not that I'm right about everything, but I've been right enough that I trust my instincts on this. And when I watch Shane Bowers, I same thing with Martin Kaut, but I understand Kaut has more of a fit problem with how the Avs want to play than Bowers does. Bowers is a perfect stylistic fit. His strengths aligned with what the Avs want to do. So I don't get it with Bowers. With Kaut, I understand that the way that the pace that the Avs want to play at presents some issues. That they, that he maybe is not built to kind of do the up and down the way that they want to play. He needs to be. He would be a better fit in a slower, more deliberate kind of organized. Like if he was in Minnesota, where they play with an offensive tilt, but they aren't like, it's not at breakneck speed. Maybe that's a better fit for him, especially with some of the guys, the Freddie Gaudreaus and the Marcus Foligno types that are not like fleet of foot and are more deliberate type of players. Maybe that's a better fit where it's like you can see where that guy would fit that organization better than he fits this version of the Avs. But with Bowers, it's lost on me. I don't get it. And like you look at his numbers in the AHL and they're terrible. And you're just like, okay, well the production sure as hell isn't like banging the desk for, oh hey,
Right.
this guy has to get called up. Like and again, some of that is on Bowers and some of that is not. And that's just sort of been the case with his whole career. But he consistently, to me, I'm just like, if it does not go well, it doesn't cost you anything to be like, okay, well, we gave him a look. We gave this a try. It's whatever. That's what the early part of the season is for. Especially if a guy like Nichushkin isn't ready to go, and you're moving guys up your lineup. Like, give a guy like that a look. For me, it's like you're not going to get anything out of a guy like a Megna or a Charles Hudon or Anton Bleed. Like, you understand who those guys are in the NHL because you've seen it before. And why that's appealing to NHL teams over and over and over and over and over blows my mind. There's no upside there, but the downside is limited enough that it's like, oh, we think we can get by with this guy doing nothing for us. He's not hurting us, and that's a positive.
There's been a while that I've half subscribed to the theory that they're not showcasing Martin Kaut in the NHL too much because it's easier to sell him on the upside. And wow, look at what a great AHLer he is, and he can be good for your team in the NHL in exchange for that player that can help us right now. All right, well, yeah, Megan and I have to get heading over towards Media Day, so I think we are going to wrap it up. Any final thoughts from either of you guys day before training camp?
Tons of them, but that's what training camp is for. Can't wait to actually talk to some NHL players and write some stories and drop some audio and play some clips on the show. And it's actually going to be a really fun week of pods for us. So
yeah,
stay tuned.
Should be fun. Megan, any final thoughts?
No.
Nope. Cool. All right. Well, this
Well
is
said.
I was going to say, DNVR Avalanche podcast brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. We will have content coming to you guys the rest of the week from training camp as the Avs are officially back on the ice tomorrow morning. Should be super fun. Of course, all of those training camp sessions are open to the public. So if you are around, head on down to Family Sports and you can get a glimpse of them as well. For Megan and AJ, I'm Jesse Montano. Thank you guys all so much for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.